Have you ever thought about analyzing heirloom clothing that you make with love in your sewing room? If these clothes could talk, they might say to the recipient, "You are so special," or "This was made especially for you," or "I love you so very much." Love is certainly woven into every thread, stitch, and inch of lace on the heirloom clothes we create today. We have lots of ideas to share to help you to express that love from your sewing machine. I appreciate your being here with me today. Welcome to my sewing room. Making baby day gowns is so much fun. As I look at this beautiful little pink day gown, I have some ideas I'd like to share with you. I bet you thought this was French lace around the neckline, that beautiful little lace. Guess what? This lace was made by machine. Then the little round yoke has sweet little daisies, little baby daisies. And as we come down the front of the day gown, this piece that goes from here to here, oh, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, is just machine sewing. It is not lace. It has been machine embroidered down the front and then come to the bottom, and look at this beautiful lace on the bottom of this day gown. Once again, it looked like to me when I first saw this day gown, oh, that's the prettiest little trim. It almost looks like tatting. And then I realized this trim was made by machine, and we're going to share with you just how you can make your own lace by machine. The trim that went down the front of the little day gown had 3 steps. It has a sort of a smocking stitch, and then after the smocking stitch, take the little baby daisies that were used on the yoke. Put the little baby daisies right on top of that smocking stitch, and it's beginning to build a beautiful lace pattern. All right, after those 2 steps are done, it's kind of nice to have a little picot edge or scalloped edge. So we're going to do a picot edge around those first 2 layers. Now here is the magic of making that lace, the real lace, it looks like tatting. Okay, here's your stitch. It goes back and forth, kind of a zigzag stitch with a little stitching at each side. Okay, fold back your hem, use wash away stabilizer. Do your little picot stitch with a row that is on the fabric and 1 row that goes over to your wash away stabilizer. Have you got that? Okie dokie. Now come down to the next step. I'm going to do a straight stitch in between. I'm working actually just on the stabilizer now. A straight stitch in right on the top of those little fancy edges of the stitch that went out on the stabilizer. Straight stitch, then another one of these little back and forth stitches, and again another straight stitch on the very edge, stitching through the stabilizer, straight stitching right through the little edge, through the stabilizer, and that is the magic. I'm so happy to have as my guest today my dear friend and business colleague, Marie Stevens. Marie is the educational coordinator for Janome America. Marie, welcome to the show.
It's wonderful to be here, Martha.
And thank you for that beautiful little day gown and for your techniques, which I would love for you to share with our viewers.
I'll do it right now. The first thing I'm going to show you is a smocking stitch. It's on your machine. Just select the smocking stitch and sew a row. I won't sew very far. I'll just show you how to do this. Sew a row of smocking stitches. You stop, put your needle down, pivot your fabric, needle up, come to the other side and sew another row right next to it, butting up right against the first row.
To make it the width you want it.
To make it the width. You can make it wider, you could make it, just leave it very narrow, but we're making a width. There's my smocking stitch. This is what we did right here. The next step is to put a decorative stitch right on top of the 2 rows of the smocking stitch. I chose a little daisy stitch right here to sew down the center. Sew it all the way down the lace. The next step is to do a scallop. You can do a picot stitch on the edge or a scallop on the edge, and this looks just like lace. On the edge, I did a bridging stitch. I sewed it over water-soluble stabilizer. The left swing of the needle, goes onto the fabric, and the right swing onto the stabilizer. After that, you sew a straight stitch right along the edge on top of the stabilizer to stabilize the whole thing. The third step is to sew a picot stitch and join the lace as we go along. And the last step is to sew a straight stitch along the edge of the picot. You can build as many stitches as you like to make the edge.
Marie, I want our audience to get to see the little day gown again, with especially this lace on the bottom that is so fabulous. It just looks like tatting. As a matter of fact, when I saw this little day gown, I thought, well, Marie has used tatting on her day gown.
It looks like tatting.
And that is just fascinating how you made that beautiful lace edging.
Thank you.
And now Marie has some beautiful sewing inspiration ideas for you. Marie, this Christmas tree skirt is just beautiful with the lace-shaped bells and on the satin. And tell us about these little motifs.
These are machine-made lace. I don't know how many I sewed, but I sewed an awful lot to go around the edge.
Beautiful motifs, and then the lace-shaped Christmas bells. And I love the way you use the metallic thread to attach them. These are some more beautiful quilts that you designed, Marie. Tell us a little bit about this.
This is really thread painting. I drew some flowers. I sketched some flowers in my house and then made a pattern. And this is all thread painting on here and out on the leaves down here. I put lace at the bottom for a see-through vase.
I love your little vase. I love that, my English friend. Vase or vase, whichever one.
Yes.
Oh, Marie, this is has another beautiful vase. Here we go.
And poinsettias. Again, I used thread painting on here. A lot of thread painting on the vase at the bottom, and applique. Yes.
And wonderful metallics.
Yes, yes, I like metallics.
I like metallic.
Yes.
This christening dress is so beautiful. Marie, let's you help me hold this skirt out a little bit.
Sure.
And let's just go down the beautiful bow.
Yes.
And let's let our viewers just go down and see the beautiful bow.
And we have some godets in here. We have a flip-flop bow down here.
I'm going to move those ribbons over. The flip-flop bow with the beautiful laces in between it. Let's go down and look at the bottom.
The embroideries.
And then the pretty scallops. Marie, it is absolutely, and it's on silk, of course. One of my favorite fabrics to use for christening dresses.
Yes, it is.
And this lovely blouse that you have, this very tailored blouse that you have used a lot of beautiful trims on, and the laces, and then on the bottom. Now, is this the machine-made lace?
It's the machine-made lace.
The machine-made lace on the bottom. I bet that took a little while to do, didn't it?
It took a little while and 6 spools of thread.
But it's so much fun.
But I made 28 and put them on the sleeves and on the bottom of the blouse.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Marie, this is absolutely beautiful. And now Marie has a so quick, so easy idea to share with you. Marie, this bonnet is just adorable. I love your use of the bright, happy quilting fabrics. And you know what is so cute is the way you use your red thread, your trims. It all just goes together to make a happy bonnet. Now, quickly show us how. You said it was easy to make.
It's very easy to make. Make half of a circle. Cut half of a circle, gather on the straight edge and on the curved edge.
All the way around?
All the way around.
Okay.
This is the brim. Add some lace to the brim, to the top part of the brim. Stabilize the brim, like so. Sew them together, and then place the gathered edge against the straight edge of the brim. And then this is the tie. Add the tie to the back edge, the straight edge of the crown, and you have your tie. It's very, very easy to make.
And you know what? This would be beautiful, just shrinking the size.
Just shrinking the size.
And the little tie is what's so cute right here. I want our viewers to see the little tie just goes around the neck. So you really didn't have to put any casing or anything like that. This really is an easy bonnet to make.
It is an easy
and you
bonnet.
can make it all the way down to a size for a tiny newborn.
Well, you would just...
Or even in an adult size. You know, reenactors...
Large, exactly.
Reenactors really do wear the old-fashioned bonnets for ladies also.
Yes, they do.
Marie, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Martha.
And now I have some hand embroidery to share with you. I'm so happy to have as my guest today my dear friend and business colleague, Wendy Schoen. Wendy is the owner of Wendy Schoen Design. She also produces petite crochet patterns. Wendy is a regular contributor to Sew Beautiful magazine and has studied embroidery at the Royal School of Needlework in London. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Well, Martha, it's always great to be here. We're going to be doing something that is dear to my heart, shadow work embroidery.
Oh, me too.
But we're going to be talking about the little complicated shapes. And this is what I get requested the most. So if you look at the gown that I brought, you'll see the little bird. And the little bird is worked in shadow embroidery. And now I'm ready to show you how to do it. And I'll be glad to share it with everyone. So let's go ahead and look at the hoop. Now you've noticed that I have drawn the bird. It is larger than the original, but I wanted to make sure you saw every stitch. So now I need to study the shape, because before I begin stitching any stitches at all, I study the shape. Now, to me, this is a separate shape than this. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that one first. I want to position it so that it's vertical to my body. Now, this shape is a triangular shape. However, normally I would start at the tip and work this way, but because I don't necessarily need stitches here, I'm going to start at the bottom and work that way. That way I don't have to worry about how long and short my stitches are. So let's begin. I'm going to tie on with a waist knot. Now the waist knot is positioned in line so that it is going to be split on the way down. So I'm going to come up from the bottom, and remember, we're going to stitch away and back. Now when you go down in the fabric, you want to make sure that you split the thread. That means the thread on the back side. Okay. Now I'm going to take another stitch that's going to be a little bit longer. This will be my normal stitch length. Of course, everything is in a larger scale. Normally my stitches are quite short. Now the next stitch is going to be on the opposite side. Remember, with shadow work, we're going from side to side, or alternating sides, as we walk up and down the sides of the shape, or as we fill in the shape, let's say. So this is going to be stitched right on the line. There we go. And down into the hole of the previous stitch. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're learning this stitch is they don't see what they're doing and they miss the same entry point. That leaves a little thread of fabric, and it looks very, very unsightly. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the next step, and just to speed up the process. So the next hoop I have is the completed shape, and I want to turn it around so you can see exactly what's happening on the back. So there you have your herringbone stitch. These stitches are going to create the shadow on the front side of the piece, exactly what we want. Now, to end this shape, just bring your needle underneath the stitches, between the fabric and the stitches, and slide the tip towards the side edge of the shape. That way you won't see the thread on the right side showing through. Okay, and then you can go ahead and cut off this waist knot. Now, when you work your bird in smaller version, you actually don't need to tie off there, but just make your way down the shape so that you can begin the next section with the same thread if you can. All right, so let me move on down now to the next step. The next step, it gets a little more complicated. This shape represents a heart shape. So if you look at this section here, you'll see that this is the point of the heart and this is the two lobes. Okay, so that is an encroaching shape in embroidery, meaning you begin in one shape and it divides into two separate shapes. You need to stitch those as though they are two. They begin as one, and then you stitch them as two sections. Now I've gone ahead and started by tying on here and stitched from side to side, and now as soon as you approach the wing, you want to start splitting off into 2 sections. You always stitch to the nearest wall, but because I have this little intruding line, I need to stitch that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it and forget it, or stitch it and then ditch it. I'm going to come in and stitch the line and pretend as though that line is not part of the design. Once the line is completed and I get to this section, then I'm going to proceed with my, continue with my side-to-side stitching. Okay, so moving along quickly, I'm going to show you the next step. Now this step will show you what happens when you run out of a space to stitch. I'm going to stitch completely across, and as soon as the stitch crosses over this center line, then I'm going to stitch from here to there and complete this section first. And then once that's done, I'm going to follow up with the next section and stitch from here to there and complete this portion of the design. So there will be some traveling on the back side, as we did for the wing when you do the 2 sections. So it's really not as complicated if you just break down the shape. So the last thing I want to show you is the finished bird, and I'm going to just turn it around so you can see what I did. And that's all there is to it.
Wendy, thank you so much. And shadow work and smocking are my absolute 2 favorite hand embroideries.
Thank you for having me,
Thank
Martha.
you so much. And now I have a doll dressing idea or 2 for you. I cannot wait to show you this beautiful little doll named Angela and her gorgeous loops of lace dress. Lace shaping has always been one of my favorite techniques. This is a robin's egg Swiss batiste, and you can see the lace and the entredot, the loops of lace. This is called lace shaping, and this is called curving. Let's come down and just see how pretty her skirt is. With the loops of lace on her skirt, stitched down with a pin stitch, and then the scalloping and the gathered lace on the bottom. And of course, she has a little slip to match. Loops of lace are really very easy to do. The first thing we're going to have to do is get a template. This is a template on a piece of paper, which of course I put it underneath here and traced off the whole skirt. Lace curving is very easy to do. You've got to have a board of some kind to do lace shaping on. This is just like a cardboard box that we've covered with blue fabric. I'm going to come around the curve and put pins, pinning the edge of the lace, and I'm pulling it a little bit taut, not tight, but taut. I don't want it to be too loose. I come around the curve, and after I come all the way around, then I will pull, after I finish the whole curve, and I will do this 1 curve at a time. I come underneath, and I pull up the gathering thread that you find in all French lace, and I pull the thread, and you can magically see that it lays down flat. Ladies, that's all there is to lace shaping. Now, it's very important that I remove it from that cardboard box before I pin it flat and go to the sewing machine. So after I remove it, I pin each of these lace shapes flat, and then actually I did a Madeira applique or a pin stitch around this with a 90 needle, not a wing needle. It makes it a little bit more like handwork when you use a 90 needle or 100 needle, but it's so pretty also when you do it with a wing needle. Again, that's the Madeira applique stitch. Now you might say, Martha, what if I do not have all those fancy stitches? No problem, just use zigzag. It is beautiful when you use zigzag, and I might add too that you either use a tearaway or a wash-away stabilizer behind this because you really do need to stabilize. Anytime you do lace shaping and curved stitching, and especially the wing needle or those heirloom stitches. Now there are a few little tricks, not hard tricks, to making that scallopy skirt. Remember, I have stitched, oh, let me go back to this one, I'm sorry. I'm going to stitch the top only. I'm not going to stitch the bottom of this loop. So I'm going to go around, stitch the inside, stitch the top of the loops only. Now, I'm going to come in, go underneath, trim away that straight fabric from underneath. Remember, I did not stitch the lace on the bottom. I trim away the fabric from underneath, and now you can see the scallop skirt has appeared. And then I trim the fabric from behind the lace. Just trim it, not so close that you're going to cut the stitches, but there's no reason to finish it. You just trim it and leave it be. And then gathering lace. Remember we talked about laces having a gathering thread? Well, when I'm going to gather the lace to go around the bottom, I'm going to pull the threads and slip the gathers over, and I do want it to be reasonably even when I zigzag it on the bottom, and I do use just a zigzag stitch to put it on the bottom. I do not use one of those fancy wing needle stitches. Now I haven't gathered it all the way across, but when I do gather it and I begin to make these gathers and get them distributed correctly, I like to put a little sticky tape on here, which is kind of looks like tiger teeth to me, but it does not leave a residue. So I put the little tape across here, holding the gathers, and then after I gather them and distribute the whole thing evenly, I only did part of it, then I will come up, I will butt it up, and I will zigzag it to the bottom of this scallop skirt. And I will do that all the way around, and that is absolutely all there is to doing a beautiful, beautiful lace scallop dress. And I also, when Joanna was little, I loved for her to have scallop skirts on her heirloom dresses. So it's great for little girls and for dolls. And next, I invite you to come with me as I show you a beautiful piece from my vintage collection. I simply love antique baby gowns. This one is very, very typical of the early 1900s, that's right, and going on up to today. This has a little bit of entredeaux and lace, and for those of you that love hand embroidery, what a wonderful place to do hand embroidery on baby day gowns. Do you remember we just did lace shaping and a curve? Well, here is more lace shaping. Again, ladies 100 years ago loved to do the same things we do today. This is another little curved lace shaping which goes all the way down the front, little pin tucks, and we come all the way down the front to a little sweet ruffle that has 2 strips of fabric, a little bit of insertion, and a little bit of edging. Let me turn this sweet little day gown over so you can see the back. It has the curved neckline, more of the little release pin tucks, and actually the 2 buttons. It has a nice long placket, but the 2 buttons that were originally with the dress are still there. Today I have 2 very, very sweet stories to read, and you know how I love to share about women and men who are sewing for people in need or for those less fortunate. The first letter is from Australia. Australia is in the grip of a drought in many areas. Our church was moved by the plight of these farmers, and as a result, we decided to help one community named Rye Park in New South Wales. This is a sheep farming area, and for the last 2 years, we have provided home-sewn gifts. I organized a few sewing friends, and we have made embroidered tea towels, hand towels, beautiful patchwork bags, and embroidered bath cloths so that every woman in the Rye Park community knows that someone that she doesn't know cares about her. Kind regards, Pam Yeomans. Another one of my favorite groups in the world is the American Sewing Guild, and this letter is from Christine Brower from Florida. Our American Sewing Guild group, called Material Girls, sew walker holders for a nursing home, darn-it dolls for cancer patients, cancer hats, small pillows for heart surgery patients, bears for the local police to use when they have to pick up children, and other items we come up with, and every quarter we try to do something to give back to our community. I really appreciate this group as they remind us to give our talents to others in need. I am so blessed to have them. Christine Brower from Florida, and that was the American Sewing Guild chapter called Material Girls. Christine, indeed, the American Sewing Guild is one of the greatest organizations in the world as far as I'm concerned, and I do appreciate their commitment to teaching sewing and also sewing for those in need or less fortunate. And now I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Won't you come back next time?